All right, folks, so I'm here at the Rancho Cordova Police Station. I've finally got the appointment set with their leadership. Lieutenant Nick Gonzalez is going to talk to me about the signs around this station. I would call it bureaucracy more than apathy. You know, the amount of time it took for me to get this meeting set up, but here we go. Let's see how it goes. Thanks.
With our interactions with the community and whatnot. Go ahead and have a seat.
Okay. Well, one of the things that
I understand you wanted to.
yes, the perceptions of First Amendment auditors is a lot of times we get seen as people who are out trying to incite a reaction because we just want to create a scene.
Okay.
And I'm just putting this out there at the front of this video that as I've gone around Rancho Cordova, I have not seen anybody react to anything, and I am extremely impressed with that.
I love it. Yeah.
You know, I've been to City Hall, I've been here to the police station, and in spite of the fact that there are signs around here that
Yes.
specifically say no photographing or video recording,
Yes.
everybody smiled.
Yeah.
Carry on, do what you need to do, and it hasn't turned into the problems I'm here to go over with you with as far as those signs go. You know, and it's been impressive, and I've got to congratulate everybody involved around here.
No, absolutely. We appreciate. I appreciate what you're saying. We take pride in that. I think if you look in the last multiple years, right, there's been a lot of headway with every police agency, right. I feel like we've always done a really good job, not just us, but law enforcement in general. A lot of times, the things that get put either in social media or out there in the news, right, is a small percentage of actually what happens, right? And that's what we're very prideful of. We love this job. We're in this line of profession to help people. Right?
Exactly.
And it's a calling, right? So we understand as law enforcement officers that we come in contact with various people in the community, right? And people of different demographics, socio-economical, regions and whatnot, right? Really, we have to treat everybody the same, right? And we want to, you know what I mean? But the whole point is we're going to come in contact with many different people, right? And we love it. So.
Okay. Well, as I said, everybody's been professional. The only thing that I've noticed in the Rancho Cordova community is these signs around this police station itself talking about no video recording or photography. I realized they were probably put up when the station was built original.
So I don't want to categorize and lump all signs into one. Which signs are you speaking of?
Well, you got the ones next to the gate for the police vehicles. There's also one next to the entryway.
Yes.
If you want to see a photograph of one, I think I can show you. Of course, I erased them after I used them.
No, all good.
Oh, wait, here we go.
And what is, okay.
Okay, this is the one next to the entrance.
Okay, so I'm going to read
Of
that. I'm going to read that. It says, warning, weapons, alcohol, drugs, and photography video prohibited. Rancho Cordova Police Department and Sheriff's Office security regulations prohibit video and photography without prior approval.
Right.
So it does say that up, warning, weapons, alcohol, drugs, and photography video prohibited, right? But then below it says same thing, but without prior approval, right?
Okay.
So that it's not that it can't happen, right?
Okay.
It's not that video and photography can't happen. What we do to any lobby of any police station, right? We have multiple. Again, we come in contact with different people, right? So sometimes those people are witnesses. Sometimes those are people with problems that they would like addressed, right? And at times, those are people that may or may not be victims,
Okay.
right, of crimes, right? So what we want to do, and our goal here is to protect everybody, right? You look at the law enforcement mission, really the protection of life and property, the preservation of peace, enforcement of law, and we do that with the partnership of our community. correct? So when we look at that, we have an obligation. We understand that people are going to be coming here that may have sensitive topics they want to discuss, right? Again, they may be victims of a certain crime, a particular crime that happened in society, right? And we want to do our best to protect those people as well, right? And we don't know when those people are coming into our lobby or in our area over here. So that's why we say, you know, if you're going to video, please just give us the heads up. And that last sentence in that sign right there is, again, I think it's the last three words, without prior approval, right? Right. So if you call us, just like we spoke to you today, right? You said, hey, you wanted to meet with us. No problem. We don't have a problem with the camera or anything like that, right? But it's nice to have the heads up, and that's what we're requesting, so that we can provide the you know, the privacy for the people that need it.
Okay, and I appreciate your stance on that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But how would that exact sign, which is also placed next to the gate that you use to enter the police vehicle area, apply? How would you apply it to protecting sensitive information in that regard?
Well, you see where people park right up over here, right next to the gate. Right? It's really the same difference. At times, we may, you know, have a situation that occurs in the field, right? And with that situation, we may or we may not bring someone back to the station, right? Because we want to talk to them in a certain area or whatnot, right? And it's exactly the same as situation as what I've talked about in our lobby, right? At times we want to talk to people. We bring people into different areas of our grounds here, and it's exactly the same.
So you're just basically trying to, just from my understanding of what you're saying, protect the privacy of somebody who's perhaps under arrest?
Well, not necessarily under arrest.
Detained?
It could, well, not even detained. It could be arrest. It could be detainment. It could be for the purposes of talking to people who may have been a victim of a certain crime or not, right?
Okay.
Again, there's a variety of people that we come in contact with, and you think about it. We go to multiple different calls, right, where people have been victimized in different fashions, right, different manners, right? And I mean, you see in the media yourself, and there's a gamut of different calls on a yearly basis that we go to, right? Sometimes we would talk to people over here, sometimes we take them to different stations, but we don't know when those incidents are going to occur, right?
Okay.
So that's why we ask for theirs and our privacy, so that.
Okay, you know, and I understand the logic you're following, because it's generally speaking the logic that seems to be the norm nationwide, and I've got to tell you, you know, that logic, as reasonable as it sounds, is not in line with our Constitution or laws that are actually on the books.
Okay.
And I wanted to go over those laws with you real quick, if I could.
Absolutely.
And then I would like to, at the end of that, portray to you the liabilities the logic you're presenting to me can potentially cause and is causing communities across the nation. And I'll even give you the most egregious example of those liabilities through telling you about what's happening in New York City today.
I got you.
So the first law I would like to go over with you is a Supreme Court set precedent that was decided in May of 2000, Smith versus Cummins. So yeah, please take notes. This is because I'm definitely citing specifics here. Smith v. Cummins, May of 2000. Okay, this Supreme Court precedent allows photography of public employees, including peace officers, during the course of performing their duties from a place that is public. Okay. We'll get to more intricacies of that later, but you might be thinking, well, there's a difference between, you know, photography and protecting a person's private information, which is what you were, you know, trying to use as a justification for putting a sign like that up. But we have another Supreme Court precedent, which was decided in June of 1971, which is again before Rancho Cordova was incorporated as a police station in 2003. Coolidge versus New Hampshire is probably one you may know about because it is the one that allows the police themselves to use what you would call your plain view doctrine.
Okay, Coolidge versus who?
Coolidge versus New Hampshire, decided June of 1971. And as I'm sure you know, the plain view doctrine means, say for example, you have an officer who does a traffic stop.
Yeah.
They're not violating anyone's Fourth Amendment right against illegal search and seizure if they can see something through the window of a car.
Correct. Plain view.
You know, and that's what it comes down to when a person, and we'll get to laws that specify lobbies and foyers and corridors, you know, as far as being legally accessible for photography later on. But that's what you're talking about when a person in public randomly enters the lobby of a police station and they can plain view look at somebody's personal information if they happen to filling that out. And the question may come up at this point, well, you're talking about the difference between what you can see and what you can photograph.
Right.
You know, because there is a difference, right? One is a permanent record, and one is, well, maybe you'll just forget later on. Well, that gets covered under California Penal Code 148, Section G. Do you know about this law?
Help me out.
Okay, so this law specifically states public photography is not prohibited.
Right.
And it furthermore states public photography cannot be used as suspicion of a crime. So if somebody was, say, for example, in a lobby and they were just photographing things, not necessarily trying to do anything nefarious, but without prior approval or anything like that, and they happen to get a picture of somebody's personal information without intention to do anything nefarious, even though you can say that would be suspicious, the law itself goes against the idea that it is suspicious for somebody to enter without permission and take pictures. You know, that's Penal Code 148, Section G. These three laws are based on our First Amendment to the Constitution, which is why public photography is a protected legal activity. So we have those four laws that specifically go against, you know, the idea that you would just like prior notification before somebody comes in and takes pictures, you know, and perhaps they could be taking pictures of something that they're not supposed to, you know, because if you can see it in public, your eyes can be trespassed, as you well know.
And you're right. It is a public place. Again, if you go back to our and you know not being adversarial or anything like that. Just saying that if you look at our mission, right? Mission is protect the life and property, the preservation of peace, enforcement of laws, right? In partnership with our communities, right? Community members, right? So we're not saying that it can't be done, right? We're not saying that it can't be done. We're just asking for cooperation, right?
Okay.
And collaboration, if you will, right? If you would like to, all we're saying is it would be nice to have a heads up, right?
I understand.
And which is part of that partnership, right?
I understand. And this is where we get to the part where I'm going to talk to you about problems it's causing nationwide right now. See, in 2003, when Rancho Cordova was incorporated as a city,
yeah,
and this police station presumably was originally built, the world was different. Standard personal property by the average American was not a camera phone. So the risk reward back then, things have changed.
Yeah.
People have camera phones as a matter of daily routine.
Absolutely.
And so the risk of somebody coming around with a camera and getting confronted by a sign that doesn't follow the law was just negligible.
Right.
Today's world is very different. And the other side of it is signs exactly like the ones you have on this police station are actually currently causing liabilities with communities across this nation, civil liabilities in the federal court system. I don't want to go over a whole bunch on that, but I'm going to tell you about New York City.
Okay.
Pretty recently, a 61-year-old woman decided to enter the 69th precinct of New York City's police force. She needed a police report regarding a glucometer that had been stolen from her. During the course of her interactions with that police department, things became a bit heated. the woman became afraid for her personal safety. From the video I watched, the sign behind her with big red letters, like you guys have, saying no photography or video recording allowed inside this precinct, was directly behind her. I don't think she knew anything about that sign, because what she did was she pulled out her camera phone and she told the police officers in that meeting, be careful, I'm recording everything now, don't do something you're going to regret.
Yeah.
Well, the police didn't even try to discuss things with her. They tackled her.
Okay.
They broke her arm. They violated New York local law, which is a mirror image of California's own Penal Code 148, Section G. They violated New York state law, which also mirrors California's Penal Code 148, Section G, and they violated federal law. And this is the one I was going to tell you about. It's a code of federal regulation, Title 41, Section 102-74.420. Okay, this law is a law that you would see on, say, for example, poster 7 in a post office, or pretty much any federal government office, like a Social Security office or something of that nature. This law specifically says public photography is not prohibited in the interior or exterior of any public building. And the interior is defined as lobbies, hallways, foyers, and corridors. So, police lobby would fall under that rule. A post office lobby would fall under that rule.
Yes.
A Social Security lobby would fall under that rule. This law specifically enumerates a public lobby as a public place, like a sidewalk. Now, obviously, not every place in a public building is going to be open to the general public. Like, I don't just get to go down to the jail cells in a jail when I go to a jailhouse.
Right, right.
There's the public location and there's the restricted location. So unless you have a sign that says restricted access in a government building, or some sort of gate or some sort of a barrier, that's impeding a person's entry to that area,
Right.
Those signs are just in all honesty, they create the illusion of being enforceable. And that's what's happening nationwide. Now that cameras are, pretty much, normal public
Right.
property, officers who don't understand these laws are watching somebody who's using a camera in a place that the law specifically says is a legal place to use a camera, and they're saying, that sign means I need to act, stop.
Right.
And they're causing federal lawsuits nationwide.
Okay. Well, so I can't speak on the New York incident that you spoke about and give the details about, right? I wasn't there, and that was, to be honest with you, I didn't even know about it, right? Until you said something, right? But this is something that I'm very proud of. If I could just go into this, I've been a member of law enforcement for about 28 years now, right? And I basically grew up in Sacramento. I've been with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, Rancho, Cordova Police Department, in those 28 years, right? And what I'm very proud about is just as you stated before, right? In all the interactions that you've had, or most of the interactions that you've had with,
I think I messed my camera up.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, so what I'm saying is, what I'm very proud about is our ability to interact with people, right? I feel like we as an organization and law enforcement, we do a good job. I thought we'd go back to your first statement when you sat down, saying that you've been very impressed with the members of the Rancho Cordova Police Department, right? We recognize that things have changed over the years, right? And I think even in those years, because I've been here nearly 3 decades, right, as a law enforcement officer, I've seen a lot of good actions by both my supervisors and my partners coming up through the years, right?
Okay.
So I'm very proud of this. Again, I think I don't know if you've had interactions here in the lobby or whatnot, right? But I feel like we deal with you know, we understand that people have freedom of speech, you know, First Amendment rights and whatnot, right? And I feel like we treat people very well, right?
Okay.
So, and that's something that quite frankly we demand, right?
I respect that, and I wanted to further point out to you that the liabilities that signs like these are causing communities across America
Yeah.
do not end with civil liabilities from the federal court system and the city hall. In California, I'm sure you're aware of the Bane Act.
Help me out.
Okay, so in other words, if this law covers the color of authority. Okay, this law is it makes it a misdemeanor crime for anybody to use their color of authority to obstruct a person from engaging in their civil rights.
Gotcha.
Okay, it's punishable by a $25,000 civil assessment if it's asked for. It's also, as you know, a misdemeanor, so that means 6 months in jail, or $1,000 fine, or some combination of both. Any officer who tries to stop a person from taking photography in public is in violation of this law, and they are subject to possible criminal prosecution in spite of their what do they call that immunity? The qualified immunity. I'm looking for the term qualified. In spite of their qualified immunity, they would be liable for that. And I would just remind you, you know, because you're a lieutenant, that sometimes upholding the Constitution is not about you personally. Sometimes it's about protecting your community and the officers that serve under you. Because you see, all it would take is one rookie officer who doesn't understand these kinds of things to obstruct somebody's civil rights.
Absolutely.
And put himself at risk of jeopardizing his career.
Yes.
These things take 3 to 5 years to completely, you know, process, but, you know, civil liability and even a criminal prosecution. And it doesn't end there. You know, in the federal level, they have what's called a United States Code, Title 18, Section 242. And this is, you know, you got to pick your beast, because you can't have double jeopardy. But it's a law that mirrors California's Bane Act. And what it does is it qualifies the obstruction of somebody's civil rights as a felony, punishable by up to 1 year in prison, an unspecified fine, which means the judge gets to decide on the merits of the case, and also that $25,000 civil liability if it is asked for. So, you know, if somebody was to approach the Attorney General's office, it'd be a very different beast than approaching the California Superior Court for the purposes of prosecuting an officer who obstructed a person's civil rights. So the laws are actually really clear, and people like me are going around, and there are those who would incite suspicion in the way that they look, because they know the wording of California 148G. They would, you know, as an officer drives up, maybe hide behind the fence real quick, you know, don't want you to see me, and then start taking pictures.
Yeah.
You know, trying to incite a reaction. I am not that kind of person.
No, absolutely.
You know, I am actually a person who's more about the education side of things.
I love it.
You know, and I'm more of a person that's more about trying to, you know, prevent,
Absolutely.
you know, liabilities.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm actually learning a lot from you right here, right? but I have to be honest. I love it because, again, you said that, number one, you feel like Rancho Cordova Police Department is doing a very good job. I can tell you just in some of the prior positions that I've had, and even in this position here, I have the opportunity to instill you know, a positive culture within our department, right? And part of that is how our officers interact with the public, right? You know, let's get right down to it. Law enforcement officers are no different than any other people in
Right.
society, right? And as a matter of fact, it's part of one of the, you know, the Peelian elements, if you will, Sir Robert Peel, right? That people are the police and the police are the people, right? And that's exactly what I was getting at. Were you raised here in Sacramento?
I've grown up in the Sacramento. I grew up in Roseville.
Oh, Roseville.
And I graduated from Oakmont High School in 1986.
Nice.
I live in Rancho Cordova currently.
Very cool.
But I've lived all throughout the Sacramento region. You know, downtown, Rockland, Roseville, Folsom,
and you're right. Having that privilege to be able to grown up and live all throughout Sacramento, you've seen a lot of good. You've probably seen a little bit of bad, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about Sacramento is it's a melting pot, right? It's the one city in this area, in this region, where all of the highways converge, right?
Oh yeah.
So with that, you get people from different areas, right? And you're right. I think law enforcement in general, we come in contact with a lot of different people. For different reasons, right? And again, we see both the good and the bad, right? But I can tell you, with regards to some of the things you're talking about and engaging with the public, our department does a really, really good job at getting that.
And I got to be honest, I've been impressed with that, and I would just like to remind you that times have changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason why I approach things in the way that I do is because I'm not one of those people who go out there, expecting perfection.
Oh yeah.
Because I heard somewhere that there's like 40,000 vehicle codes. And to expect any person to have, a law enforcement person as far as this discussion goes, to have every law that they're supposed to be able to act upon, memorized, it's absolutely not reality. So the only thing I can do, as somebody who gets out as an activist with these things, is the only thing I can do is expect professionalism.
Oh, absolutely.
From the people that I approach with these issues, and just a little bit of progress,
absolutely.
Because I would hate to see, a sign that is now part of a world that is very different than it was in 2003 when Rancho Cordova was incorporated as a city, become the reason why a lawsuit against the city, against the officer himself, was
absolutely
pursued.
Absolutely right. I think there's maybe little things out in society that people may react to or not, right? But one of the most important things when you're in profession, are you in a profession that is surrounded by or based off of service?
I have been my entire life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in that job, right? And you're exactly right. It is really based upon how we interact with one another, right? Treating people with respect, giving people a voice, right? Building that trustworthiness, right? And actually being neutral, right? That's something that we employ in our department. We employ that with everybody on our department, right? In our agency, and that's something that we're very proud of, right? That's something, it takes constant work, right? Just like any tool that you have, there's perishable skills, right? And for that we have training, right? To keep us on our toes and keep us abreast of some of the newer policies and whatnot in society and within our profession, right? So we're very proud of that. I actually thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you for talking to me.
I appreciate everything you said. We will continue to implore that training with our personnel, right? I'll have a discussion. I'll use this conversation as a discussion point, right?
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because again, you're a citizen coming in, and it seems that you're very pro law enforcement, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like you, you're pro law enforcement. You're just not. You're anti-bad law enforcement.
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. We are not unlike any other organization, right? There may be bad seeds in every organization, right? But we are the one true profession that won't tolerate that, right? We want those people out, right? And you know, there's a process for that, right? The one thing with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, Rancho Cordova Police Department, is that any complaint, every single complaint that comes in gets looked into, right? But the important thing to know with our organizations is that many of those complaints are internally generated, right? So, and that's a fact, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you that people within our organization who have the values that we want to be based on, right, are complaining against their own people for certain reasons, right? And that's important to know, right? That's I think when people hear that, they're probably shocked by it, but it's a fact.
All right. Well, I you know, in my experience with Sacramento County, you know, and dealing with the law enforcement in Sacramento, I've always had, you know, respect, you know, even in situations where I was in the wrong, you know, like a traffic stop or something of that nature. I've always had respect for their professionalism, and I gotta say, you know, I think I live in a good community.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I'm approaching my community is because I see some of the failings in more than just New York City, across this nation, as I research this particular subject, and I don't want my community to end up, you know, like some of the bad apples, you know, because in New York, you know, they're doing a lot more than tackling a 61-year-old woman, you know, by keeping her a camera out of their lobby. They're using that no camera stuff to manipulate overtime.
Yeah.
You know.
No. So again, I will never speak on a different agency.
And I wouldn't ask you to. I'm just letting you know what I'm seeing.
And I appreciate that. We can learn a lot from history, right? We can learn. Well, we have learned a lot from history. We can learn a lot from other people's mistakes, right? But also, it's important for us to look at each other, ourselves, introspectively, right? And see what it is that we're doing good, and continue with that and grow on that, right? And look at those things that maybe need to be addressed or improved upon, right? And act on that as well, right? So that's exactly you know, our perspective, and I love it.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I hope you're willing to seriously consider taking those signs down, because they do set an environmental tone that is risky.
No, I get it, and I would like if you come in here, you know, in the future or something like that, just please, you know, feel free to give us a call and just give us a heads
Oh,
up.
absolutely,
So that,
because that would be a highlight of my video. The signs went down, so that's something I would definitely want.
All right.
But you know, you're going to go over this obviously with other people. Can I get a time frame that, generally speaking, not committing to anything, that would take?
No, I mean, I'm going to have a conversation starting this afternoon, right, with our conversation,
Okay.
right? But you know, again, these signs are out here for a reason. I feel we're very neutral, especially when you look at that bottom line.
Right.
And all we're looking for is cooperation, right? I think again it goes back to the interaction, right? For example, if someone were to come in and video or whatnot, right? It comes down to the interaction with the people who you were met with, right? And that's very, very important, right?
Okay.
It goes back to this entire conversation, right? Give people respect on our end, right? Give people respect, and more than I can tell you, had contact with thousands of people in the last almost 30 years, right? And most of those interactions have been with great people and good interactions.
All right.
Right?
Well, thank you again
Right
for your
on. Have a
time,
good
and I
one.
appreciate that
Right
you
on.
took the time to talk to me.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.